Okay, that's the meeting recording, so I'm just going to take the sedence of the Hamilton Area Committee on 9th of June by roll call. Jackie Burns.
No, not you, Jimmy.
Jackie Burns?
That's right.
Nope, I'll come back. Stephanie Callahan? Nope.
Apologies for Stephanie.
Apologies. Andy Carmichael?
Yeah.
Got apologies for Maureen Chalmers. We have Peter Craig present. Maureen Devlin? Maureen's present.
I'm here.
Uh,
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Mary Donnelly's present. Alan Falconer?
Present.
Graham Horn? Graham Horn? Nope. Martin Grant-Hose?
Present.
I have apologies for Joe Lowe. Kenny McCreary?
Yes, I'm here.
Mark McGeever? Nope. Jim McGuigan?
I'm here.
You're here. David McLachlan?
Yeah.
Lynn Naylan?
Here.
Richard Nelson?
Here.
Mo Razak?
Here.
John Ross?
Here.
Bert Thompson?
Here.
Yeah, thank you, Bert. Josh Wilson?
I'm here.
Okay, officers present, you have myself and Karen McLeod from Administration Services, and we also have Alistair Stewart, Station Commander from Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and a member of the press has been invited. I'll now pass you back to the Chair to proceed with today's business. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Elizabeth Ann. Can I have declarations of interest? Is there any? No declarations of interest. I'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, which is pages 3 to 6, and I'll move that as an accurate record. Can I have a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Thank you. I'm now moving on to item 3, which is the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service presentation by Alistair Stewart. Over to you, Alistair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Much appreciated. I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone. You know, I'm delighted to be asked along to the Area Committee meeting to basically provide you with an update in respect to Scottish Fire and Rescue Service activity within South Lanarkshire, but within the Hamilton Area Committee in the first instance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share my screen with you. Hopefully that will work. And I just want to cover a few points with you in relation to key performance indicators. And I'll go through the presentation. I'll be as quickly and concise as I possibly can be. And I'm more than happy to take questions thereafter. So if everybody's happy with that, I'll give this a go, Elizabeth Ann. See if I can see if it works. I'll share my screen with everyone.
Sure.
Yeah, can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's good. So yeah, just certainly I'll give you a very, very brief background. You've probably seen these reports before, but just the background simply is that on the 1st of April 2013, the Fire and Rescue Services in Scotland merged to form a new Fire and Rescue Service, and the requirement, you know, of the new legislation meant that we had to produce a local area plan, you know, within the local authority boundaries and provide periodical reports. And we would provide progress against key priorities within our local area plans. And that will consist of 10 key performance indicators. So that's what this report is here just now. And I think you'll notice with this report, if I go through the kind of preamble to begin with, this is a report from the 1st of April 2020 to the 31st of March 2021. Just scroll down for you. As I say, 10 key performance indicators there. Now, you'll see that some of them are showing a percentage increase or decrease, and some are just simple numbers increase or decrease. You know, that was the most appropriate thing to do for that key performance indicator. It's quite clear when you see it. But I think right off the bat, what I have to say is I believe that the performance within the Hamilton area has been excellent over the last 12 months. You'll see a lot of green arrows, which is very, very positive. And downward trend line analysis, that's always good as well. And there's not an awful lot of red. So it's all very, as far as I'm concerned, positive. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through these, as I say, quickly and as concisely as I possibly can, then happy to take questions thereafter. So the first key performance indicator that we look at is deliberate fires. And you can see there that we've had, you know, I would say a considerable reduction, around about that kind of 10% mark. So we obviously, you can imagine, we do a bit of deeper analysis with that, but what we identified within that category is the number of car fires we had over the reporting period, and that was slightly higher than what we would normally expect. And with it being uncharacteristically high, we thought, right, okay, we need to get the right people to know what's going on here. Are we the only ones that are aware of this, that level of performance, or the uncharacteristic high number? Or do other people know about it? And it just so happened that as we communicated it to Police Scotland, they were also aware of that deliberate fire setting within vehicles and cars. So that was quite a prompt action that we had taken there to communicate that risk with our partners. And, you know, it's certainly Police Scotland have got their own actions to take against that. But it's good. The positive thing about that is that you're actually identifying it and being able to communicate to the right points of contact so that everybody's fully aware of what is actually going on within the community. As I say, down at the bottom there, community intelligence plays a large part in our analysis. And if we can, you know, identify trends and patterns, we communicate these as quickly as we possibly can to the Community Safety Partnership Hub, which is really an absolute boon for us to have within South Lanarkshire as a whole, covering all 4 committee areas. So as you can see there, performance within the deliberate primary fires category is down, and the trend line analysis is gradually dropping there. You can see that. Moving swiftly on, this is the only area of increase through all the key performance indicators, and it's deliberate secondary fires. We're always looking to drive these fires down, and where the trend line it kind of plateaued over the last kind of 4 years, I suppose it's a disappointing rise, because what we do is we pride ourselves greatly in the engagement element, you know, round about that kind of category. We're always looking to kind of engage with young people, youths. You know, predominantly that's, you know, it's happening round about these kind of areas. So we look to kind of target the schools and the young people within to get a discussion about deliberate fire setting. Generally, or predominantly, it's refuse fires that cause the issue and cause the increase. Now, this year, what we did identify that where under normal circumstances bonfire season you would generally see an increase between the 4th and 6th of November, and this year, on kind of closer scrutiny, it would appear that the bonfire season was one of the quietest that we've had in quite a few years. And I've noted it down there that it's the lowest percentage of incidents, you know, over that period, that bonfire period in 3 years, which is really encouraging. So with that, we need to identify, so where is the increase then? If it's not the bonfire season and it's not the fireworks and the bonfires, where is it? Lark Hall area seems to be the area where we've had the largest increase. That was 30% on the previous year. But Bothwell and Uddingston area seem to have the highest percentage increase compared to last year. But as I say, with Lark Hall with the larger numbers, rubbish fires, the kind of common incident overall, and we strive to reduce that demand through education, engagement programmes, and as you can probably imagine, COVID and schools being closed just now really it's been so frustrating for us because we normally have that programme of education, and we will address 3,000 to 4,000 young people within education establishments. We had, back in 2019, we had a great success for that, a great return and positive feedback from the delivery of the education programmes with our community action team. But communication still is ongoing with our local problem solving groups, and that closer analysis and mapping exactly where it's happening so that we can be a wee bit more predictive in the future. So communication is absolutely key to understanding exactly where these issues are happening.
I have the same issues that we are having.
Yeah, they said it was fine.
They've cancelled Canvas Lang in Rutherglen for Total Mobile until we get this sorted out.
Yeah.
The main thing that was
What happened there?
Sorry, I've lost audio.
Sounded like Alan was having a conversation with someone in the background.
Yeah.
Is everybody back on?
Yep.
Do you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Sorry about that. Don't know, technical hitches again. Swiftly on, accidental dwelling fires. This is that category, that key performance indicators, one of the big hitters, and really encouragingly, we've seen a kind of positive reduction in accidental dwelling fires. Now, there was a fear that COVID-19 restrictions and more people being in their homes for longer periods would have increased the level of risk, but it would appear on this occasion, within the Hamilton locality, area committee, that number has actually come down. So let's keep our fingers crossed, and with the good work that continues, these numbers continue to fall. We're looking so, we focus so much on keeping people safe within their own homes, and we're still offering a free home fire safety advice. And more people in their homes have got smoke alarms, which is raising the alarm. You can see that, but any visits that we do to homes, 80% of them have working smoke detection, which is really encouraging. As I say, we continue to deliver the fire safety message, and despite the COVID-19 restrictions, we had identified who those were at the highest risk, and we had telephone consultations, and we also did. When we had to still carry out a face-to-face safety visit if we felt that person was at immediate risk. So we didn't take our eye off the ball just because of COVID. We continued to search out different ways to engage with our vulnerable members of the community within their homes. So again, that positive downward trend, let's keep that going, working hard, and as I say, a community action team work tirelessly to identify kind of vulnerable members of the community. Other building fires, I think simply just to kind of report there that there has been a reduction. The numbers are never generally that high within this category, but nonetheless, it's a positive reduction, a good green arrow going down the way. That's always a good thing. But it's interesting to note there that a third of the incidents were private garden sheds. So I don't know, more people in their garden sheds, in their gardens over that period of time, perhaps. But it's encouraging to note that the numbers have actually dropped quite a wee bit. You may be aware or not, over the reporting period, we did have one fire fatality. These are tragic events that we're always trying to kind of avoid. Of course we are. A lady in Blantyre tragically lost her life. Say I can't go into any kind of
No.
detail at this moment in time, but these are tragic events, and we always work with it with dignity, and there's always investigation going on, and we provide the surrounding area through our post-domestic incident response with fire safety advice. Again, that's free advice, and we just reassure local communities that, you know, that we are here to help you. You know, we have advice out there for you. You know, we can carry out that home fire safety visit in your home. We don't want to scare. We don't want to scare people. You know, we want to make sure that people are just safe. So hopefully, you know, with our interventions, that we can keep these numbers down. Thankfully, they're not high, but tragic nonetheless. Yeah, very sad. We continue to provide that advice. So when it comes to kind of fire casualties, what we have here is, again, another reduction. Probably sound like a broken record a wee bit, but that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. The downward trend is outstanding there. On all occasions, the injuries within fires were slight, and there was only one person required hospital treatment, and there was no significant prevalence of alcohol or drug impairment. These are always, you know, the kind of supplementary categories that we look at just to see if there's any trend emerging from it. And smoking relating incidents at the lowest for 3 years. It's people cooking. It's people being distracted and falling asleep that's kind of causing it. As I say, again, the fire safety advice continues. We're trying to keep people as safe as we can in their house, and you know, it would appear that we're doing something. You know, we're working hard. Something seems to be working, that these numbers are dropping. On to a different category there, special service road traffic collisions. Now, historically, the kind of Hamilton and Blackhall area, they don't have massive numbers simply because of the geography. But if you look at that number, there's less cars on the road, clearly, which is going to have a bearing on the number of road traffic collisions that you actually have. And I noted there that with the numbers being so low, it's very, very difficult to identify any trends. One of the things that we're looking to kickstart there is kickstart is a road safety program with virtual reality. And if anybody would like any more information about what that program is in the Fire and Rescue Service, I'm more than happy to provide more information on it. It's an excellent tool that we've got that we can use for any category of person within the community. It's an outstanding piece of kit, and it really kind of supports the road safety message. So more than happy to have a discussion about that if you want off table in relation to how we're going to carry that forward for the next reporting period. Special service, fatal and non-fatal casualties. You know, there's a combination of road traffic collision, affecting entry incidents, medical first response, rescue from water. That's all the other stuff, non-fire incidents that we're going to. Again, massive drop in casualties. And I would say that the affecting entry incidents and the medical first responder incidents, I would say increasing in relation to historical data. It's the way we're moving forward. It's how the Fire and Rescue Service respond to people in need. You know, it goes beyond fire now, and it has done for a number of years now. You know, that's it's just the kind of modern fire and rescue service. So in addition to that, you know, it's say not just fire risk, but we're looking to keep people safe, as I said earlier on, keep people safe within their own homes. So that includes looking at the risk within the home environment as well, and trying to reduce injury within that home environment. So through and we really kind of push, you know, really focus that with the unintentional injury subgroup that the Fire and Rescue Service chairs. That's been a fantastic group brought together. You know, it's one of the community safety partnership key themes. So we're more than happy to try and drive down these casualty rates within the home environment. And one of the really positive initiatives that came from that was the Salt Stick initiative that we kick-started in November. So we managed to secure a wee bit of funding and get salt sticks. And as in our normal course of work, we would identify that any risk to kind of falls or slips and trips. And what we would do, we would distribute salt sticks to the people that we felt needed it the most. So it wasn't just the Fire and Rescue Service, it was Care and Repair, Seniors Together, Vasland, Police Scotland, you know, sheltered housing officers, leisure and culture. We all kind of clubbed together and said, yep, we'll get that distribution done. I do hope it's made a massive difference, but it's always one of these wee things you think that's quite a nice thing to do, to be able to help people out with something that you maybe never had a chance to do beforehand, simply because we're now focusing on lots of different things, certainly with the fire service, not just fire, but keeping people safe within their home environment. Nearly done. Just a couple more to go. Two other categories left, and they're in relation to the false alarm, one being malicious and the other one being unwanted fire alarms signals within kind of commercial premises. The first one there, malicious false alarms, great result there, you know, down 19 from last time. The trend line where it has risen slightly has now dipped back to kind of levels we saw at 2017-18. Regardless of what the trend line's doing, it's unnecessary. They do place an extra burden on the emergency services. You know, it's a considerable amount of money when you consider that every time a fire appliance come out, the kind of societal cost or the economic cost is around about £2,000, you know, for a fire appliance to actually attend these incidents. So you can imagine why we're looking to drive them down. So our protection managers continue to address these issues when we identify particular premises. Now, we're looking in the Hamilton Committee area, we're actually looking at the kind of schools. That's a kind of main aim of focus there. So we're in touch with the education services and their managers just to identify different ways of how we can actually reduce that demand. So something seems to be working with that one as well. And I know the schools haven't been in, so we'll keep a very close eye on how performance goes on that one. And finally, in relation to false alarms, we have unwanted fire alarm signals. This is always another category that we're looking to reduce demand. And we identified that where there's a reduction there of 27%, the numbers are still probably, for us, the numbers are still too high. So when we examine it, we do a wee bit kind of closer scrutiny. We identified that care homes and education premises, you know, are those who have the highest incident numbers. What's important there is we establish points of contact with, you know, premises owners, you know, education managers, care home owners and managers, just to kind of have a discussion with them about what their responsibilities actually are, you know, because it's you know, they have, you know, they need to make sure that all the processes that they have in place in order to satisfy their fire risk assessment, you know, when we carry out that risk assessment, that audit, that they are complying with, you know, legislation, and reducing the amount of false alarms is part of that legislation. It's part of that, you know, it's part of their responsibility, you know, within fire risk assessment. So, yeah, positive. What, you know, on the UFAS, downward trends across the board, with exception to one. Let's keep that going. And I do the tireless work that goes on. You know, I suppose behind the scenes to kind of get programs, you know, kick started again after COVID. You know, it's hard work. We'll get there. But the positive thing is that we are seeing reductions across the board. And yeah, that's a good news story as far as I'm concerned. And you know, certainly the fire service in South Lanarkshire as well. I'm more than happy to take any questions that anybody might have just now. I can stop sharing this if you like.
Thank you very much for that, Alistair. I think that was very informative. I'm going to pass it over to the committee. Is there anyone wanting to ask Alistair any questions at this point?
Yep. Can I come in, Mary?
Yep. Yes, you can.
Right, thanks very much, Chair. Thank you. Alistair, thanks for that report there. It was a very welcome report and a good report in that some of the serious issues that are in the downward trend. The bonfires, I think, maybe because of COVID, maybe not people, a lot of people out, but surprisingly, a lot more people staying at home, more drinking at home. I thought there'd be a lot of incidents there, so that no happened.
Councillor Thompson, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thanks. I just welcome Alistair that report. It's encouraging to see incidents at home. For example, I thought more people at home, more people drinking at home are actually down. So that's encouraging. Bonfire night knows been incidents. I think that's probably because of COVID. The fatality in Blantyre. The thoughts and prayers with the family at the time. A very, very sad ending, losing a life, of course. But in general, things are on the way down. You're doing a good job. Just one quick question. How's the morale within the fire service? That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Bert.
Well, the morale, I would say, in the fire service has always been really quite high. We're quite a resilient organisation, even through change, Councillor. That we find we are I think the way I like to put it is we're an organisation of doers. You know, we have a job to do, and regardless of that change, we've got a responsibility to keep people safe. You know, we've got a responsibility to go out there, and ultimately we serve the community. And morale, I would think there'd be, I certainly from my station, I've got a great resilient bunch of firefighters and great crews, and morale's always been quite high. I think it's by nature of the job that we do. And it's about how, I suppose, me as a manager and us as managers, it's how we lead that change. It's how we influence that. But I would suggest that morale is actually, you know, it's yeah, I would say morale's absolutely fine. I think I would know if it was kind of particularly low. Yeah, it's just about embracing change. You know, we all need to deal with change at some point, but yeah, a resilient organisation that we can get through lots of things.
Yeah, I know the community of Blantyre. The community of Blantyre are very thankful to yourself and other frontline services. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Bert, for those kind comments. Anyone else wanting to come in?
Chair, you have councillors Nelson, followed by McGuigan and McCreary.
Oh, I see it at the right. Okay, Jim, if you want to come in now, and then I'll take Nelson, and then I'll take. Okay. Jim, I think you're mute. You're on mute, Jim.
Yeah, suddenly seemed to get flung out there for a minute. My
All
apologies. Right. Anyway, yeah, Alistair, 2 points. With an increase on fly tipping during the COVID period, has that actually resulted in more call-outs for that specific reason? And secondly, you mentioned Bothlin Uddingston as having increased. There is a specific area where I know that I have reported on several occasions groups of youth. Now, it's not just the fact that they actually go down and they have their carry out, they actually get meals delivered to them on site as well, and that they like to set bonfires. Now, this is in a wooded area, and obviously that the potential for fire to spread is serious. Just wondering if do you consult with the police in these matters where there's a high incidence of call-out?
We do indeed. Sorry, can I just go back? I missed your first question, Councillor.
Yeah, the first question, Alistair, was in relation to fly tipping. And
Oh,
obviously there's been an increase in fly tipping during the period when we've had the pandemic, and I'm just wondering if that bears out in the stats with the number of fires of the fly tipping area being set alight.
Okay, I'll kind of back engineer that. I'll go for the bottom
Right,
back and forward here. So in answer to your second question, absolutely, we communicate any kind of increase, or we communicate our secondary fires to a number of groups, really. Certainly, first of all, the creation of the community safety partnership hubs, where we communicate these incidents to Police Scotland and Housing Services and the Joint Problem Solving Group on a daily basis. So the more we communicate, the more patterns, the more we feed the machine, if you like, the more issues we can identify, and then we can identify these kind of patterns and trends. So yes, that's happening actually on a daily basis, and that through the support of our local area liaison officer, Ben Adams, and his team, the community action team. They do a fantastic piece of work. It's all about information sharing and partnership working. So that is now a mainstay. In relation to demand reduction, we are in contact with Police Scotland on a daily basis with that. So as I say, in addition to the joint problem solving group, the problem solving groups, we communicate that the problem solving groups is a slightly more reactive, just by nature of the quarterly meetings. But certainly we can be more proactive and a bit more predictive when we communicate these incidents on a daily basis, because we're logging them all, and that's where we can identify these trends. So Bothwell and Uddingston, where I appreciate what you're saying, that there's, if you're keeping the people there, then there's a more risk. It could increase the risk. From our point of view, our community safety advocates are continuing to communicate what the dangers are. When it comes to policing, obviously we're not police officers, we're not enforcers in relation to that side of the law, but we can certainly continue to educate, and that's where our community safety advocates are now looking at almost a kind of street base approach. As opposed to kind of doing it behind a PowerPoint presentation or a school's presentation face to face. What we're looking to do, we're seeing how that will work at that kind of street based level, and let's see if we can't get that message out there, where it's actually happening. I mean, it's a fair point, and it's an area that we're looking to kind of probably do a wee bit more work on in the future. What we have adopted in relation to, when you talk about the fly tipping, what we have adopted is an initiative, if you like. It's not even an initiative. What we are running with this. It's as simple as that. Within South Lanarkshire, we have adopted a principle called ward level ownership. So what we're doing now, all our watch officers and fire crews, when they go about their daily business, they are not just, they're not just doing a wee tour about the town just to see if they can. They're not fire watching. They're not sitting at a street corner waiting for a fire to happen. They're very proactive. So we've identified through this ward level ownership that we can record all the instances of likes of fly tipping is a very good example. We've created an intelligence report or intelligence forms to inform a quarterly report, just to provide a kind of a picture of where these issues actually are. And the more we know, the more we can communicate back to likes of land services and housing services. So this is it's a newish thing, and we've called it ward level ownership, and we've adopted that across the South Lanarkshire area, whereby we're actually proactively, we're not seeking out these issues, but on our normal course of business, we're identifying where they are. We now have a reporting a recording mechanism and a reporting mechanism back to our prevention and protection managers. So that should provide us with a picture of exactly where the issues are within the very localised areas within, you know, certainly the Hamilton Area Committee that we're talking about just now, but across the board. So yes, we're trying to be as proactive as we possibly can and try and put in the tools and the kind of mechanisms in place to kind of communicate it more than anything else, get it out there.
Jim, you're on mute.
Alistair, thanks very much for that. And can I also share with Bert the thanks to the frontline service that's been given to the residents through the pandemic period. I was on a meeting this morning with Jim Snedden from Cambuslang, and that again I was expressing to him my thanks. So please pass it on to your colleagues, would you? Thank you.
Well, indeed. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Richard, then Kenny, and then John. Richard. Richard, are you coming in? Can you hear?
Chair, I think Richard's dropped out. Maybe go to Kenny and then try
Right.
Richard again.
I'll go. Right, Kenny.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, Alison. Many thanks for your presentation. Like everybody else, I think we all appreciate what the fire service do for us in times of need. So I would join my colleagues there in thanking you again for that. So I represent Bothwell and Uddingston, and I also live in Bothwell, and it'd be fair to say the community are nervous and concerned right now about the arson attacks we've had. I think there's been to property and to cars. I think maybe 3 in the last 3 weeks, I believe, and obviously a very high profile one again a few weeks ago in another part of South Lanarkshire. I guess you guys go out, or the fire service go out and do some kind of forensic assessment that maybe then given to the police. I guess that's the way it works. And although I know you can't probably give us any details of things that are ongoing, is it likely to be the case that these are kind of the same modus operandi, or is it guys just going around throwing petrol in cars randomly, or is it the same people, do you think that? And I know there's no definite answer in this, but is it literally the same kind of people that are carrying out these attacks? Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny. So in relation to your kind of car fires, when we attend these incidents, you know, we're always very, regardless of what they are and where they are, we're always very mindful about the cause and the cost, the cost to individuals as well. And after every incident, we have a responsibility to complete our reports on that. If at any time we decide or we make an assumption, any time we believe that the most probable cause is willful, we will. It's a default position that the Police Scotland will be informed. So that's generally what we do. When it comes to any kind of prosecution or anything like that, so it's obviously Police Scotland's, position with that. We pull together the evidence we can in relation to the cause of the fire, as opposed to making assumptions on who did or who didn't. As I say, it's not the fire service's position to do that. And I suppose it's like, we are part of, we're one piece of the jigsaw. really. But as I say, if we deemed that the most probable cause was willful, then we would pass that on to Police Scotland, and then they would carry out their investigations and say they put their piece of the jigsaw into it. And you're correct; it's very difficult to kind of discuss, say any sensitive information for that. But certainly, it's not just a simple case of turning up, putting a fire out, then we're off, thanks very much. No, it doesn't quite work like that. There are investigations, but it's in relation to the most probable cause of the fire, as opposed to apportioning blame to anybody. So in relation to who started, we'll not know that. We don't have that information. This is again what the most probable cause that we're looking at. Does that answer your question?
I guess what I'm asking, Alison, really, is it the 3 fires, or maybe the 4 fires, if we include the Thornton Hall one, is it the same? Does it appear to be the same technique that's being used?
That's far too early to say.
Okay.
I don't have that information on me. I couldn't say. It's probably far too early at this stage in relation to, between the fire report getting done and anybody requiring any additional information from our information governance department. It would be too early to say at that point, because it would be somebody else that would carry out that analysis. As I say, that would be Police Scotland who would make that kind of you carry out that work.
Okay, thanks, Alistair. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alistair. John, would you like to come in now?
Yes, thanks very much, Mary. Alistair, thanks very much for that report. It was very heartening to see so many of the statistics going down the way. I was very interested in your latter comments about the extended work that the fire service are now doing, looking into communities and helping with that side of things. I know that the fire service has taken on a far greater community role recently, simply because fires in themselves have gone down, and that you've really stepped up into a more community-based organisation, which I really welcome. It would be my intention to try and get other services within the council to also adopt the same sort of vigilance that your operatives have in going about their daily business. I'm sure that we could all help in our communities. For instance, if refuse collectors who are on the street and see the same people every week may notice an old buddy that's not put out our bins or what have you, and take it upon themselves to call emergency services. That's the type of initiative that we're starting to look at when we talk about looking after communities. So I really welcome the extended role that the fire service is now playing, and I thank you very much. And I would like you to thank your crews as well for all the help they're given to South Lanarkshire. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for those kind comments, John. Peter, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to be asking the question that Richard was going to ask.
Right.
He's not in yet. In Ashgill recently there was a house fire, Alistair. Now in that area where the house fire was, there's been quite a lot of complaints about low water pressure for the houses, and the scuttlebutt is that the fire was able to take hold because of the low water pressure at the hydrants. Now, be that as it may, and there's no evidence yet that that was the case, what leverage would the fire brigade have over Scottish Water to make sure that the pressure in those hydrants was adequate?
Certainly, thanks very much for that, Peter. We have almost all incidents of that scale, I would suggest. We carry out a kind of post-incident review of all our actions, which includes, the resources that we have in place, which includes, not only just fire engines and fire crews, but the resources that we use, i.e. water, and it's called operational assurance. So if we identify that there is a particular issue, let's call it water supplies, for example, seeing as you kind of raised that issue, we would identify any risk within that operational assurance process. And what that does is it simply informs future practice. And if any partner agency or organisation has to be involved in order to kind of improve that, then that information would get passed to them. It's not uncommon for these things to happen, and there can be many different factors attached to it. And we are our partners are quick to respond if we request for. So if we required an increase of pressure of the water, it's a very quick response from, say, Scottish Water, to increase, pressures locally. So we do have these links. When it comes to leverage, I think it's important that it's not so much, I don't think we should look at it so much as leverage, but more just opening lines of communication to say, here's what we identify. In particular areas, can we, is there some way, shape or form that we can improve that, or do we know the reasons behind? So I think I wouldn't necessarily use the term leverage, but certainly I would suggest that, we do have communication through our operational assurance process. If we identify anything that needs any sort of kind of further looking at, that's the process that we would go through for that. So again, much like what we were talking about earlier on, we don't just kind of turn up and put the fire out, then that's it. There's lots of things to consider, and you're absolutely right to ask the question in relation to that. But that operational assurance element, will pick up these details moving forward, and hopefully, our partners, and partner agencies, hear what we're saying and help out and assist.
Alistair, thanks for that. If I can just ask a supplementary. Now, at the moment, those householders within that area have, let's say, they've been complaining about low water pressure for their houses for some time now. They've seen this incident taking place, and now they're extremely nervous should their house go on fire, and what reaction they would be able to achieve if that were to happen. So you can understand how nervous they would be in circumstances like that. Is there anything that we can do to reassure them?
Yeah, I think even at the basic level of understanding in relation to where water comes from, it's not everybody that realises that within the back of fire engines there are water tanks. And we do have, water immediately available to us within the fire appliances. Excuse me. So for a quick response, we have water. We have water. In addition to that, what we do is there's what we call hydrant routes, if you like. So our operational crews have a regular programme of checking where those hydrants are, and the kind of strength or weakness of them. So it allows us to be that a bit more, how can I put it, clear of where our supplies are, where our resources actually are. So if we can't get it from one place, there's a local knowledge and understanding of where we can get it at the earliest opportunity. But from a quick response point of view, we can get water straight away, for a quick attack. And not everybody knows that there's water in the back of fire engines, but we carry it for that very reason. It's to give us that window of opportunity to attack fire right at the very start. But we've got our fire crews are very knowledgeable, in relation to the topography and the location of hydrants. So and their strength and what they can provide. As I say, if we felt as if we required any, additional resources in relation to water, we would contact Scottish Water and say, can you, increase the pressure in a particular area? We don't know, unfortunately, we don't know what's lying underneath the pavements. It'd be good if we knew that, and sometimes we don't know until we actually turn up. But through regular inspections and testing, that's, I suppose that's an element of kind of reassurance to say that we're aware of where our water supplies are, where to get them, and how best to use them. As I say, we're quite a resilient bunch. We can work things out quite quickly, and it's some form of reassurance to the local communities. But you know what? I would say, and just probably going back to a wee bit of Councillor Ross's comment in relation to being out there in the community. I've found great benefit from carrying out things like EVA, environmental visual audits, and the walkabouts, the walkarounds with local elected members, housing officers. It's the kind of thing that sparks conversation with the local community. And if we need that level of conversation, people are actually around about, the people that you really want to speak to when it comes to situations like that, they're actually walking about their streets, more than willing to have that conversation. So I think it's healthy. And I think we should adopt that more personally, is carrying out these walkabouts in particular areas where we've identified that there may be a need. So let's listen to the community, let's listen to what they've got to say, and who knows, we can work together to get some sort of kind of resolution.
Thanks for that, Alistair.
You're welcome.
So going on from that, Peter, would that offer be useful to the people if you took up the offer that Alistair's making to do a walkabout in your area and to reassure the people that are a bit, nervous?
It certainly would, because that Nursery Drive area of Ashgill is at the top of the hill, and as I said, there's been complaints over the years about low water pressure coming from Scottish Water, and I think that whether the rumours of the hydrants not working properly were true or not, it fits in with that narrative. So it would be comforting, I think, for people in that area to know that the fire brigade was aware of the situation.
So will you and the fire brigade organise that then and do a walkabout?
I could definitely get in contact with Alistair if that's okay with Alistair.
That's fine. No problem at all.
That's great. Alistair, just one wee thing was the points that you made about the increase in the nursing homes.
Yes.
When I worked in nursing homes or worked in supported living, we did regular checks with the tenants to ensure they had an awareness of what to do if a fire alarm went off. So do you know if that's happening in homes? Because that is quite a high number still.
Yeah. Well, they'll have, each respective nursing home should, as part of their responsibilities for fire risk assessment, should have a training regime in place in order to, it's like fire alarm tests, evacuation, mock evacuations, understanding who, and people being clear about who their points of contact are, and who the responsible person is. There's a lot of times we go in there where people are not fully aware of what their responsibilities are, because generally you find that it's somebody else's job, because there's an element of fear there. It's fire. There is a fear factor there, and I think through our kind of regular programs of auditing these premises, because they are high risk, they're sleeping risk, they're life risk. So we continually, kind of communicate that, their levels of responsibility, with I think there's been a fair bit of activity in general terms within these types of premises, just through the COVID, just through that pandemic. And as I say, it's maybe too early to see whether that has a bearing on it. With Nottingham Homes, just having a lot of activity and a lot more people within them, that could have a bearing. That could be the reason. And you'll maybe have, who's to say, and I suppose I'm just surmising here, you don't know whether there's a lot of peripatetic staff who aren't aware of the full fire safety process within that care home. There are lots of different elements and lots of different kind of formulas, I suppose, you could put into that. But certainly what is reassuring now is that we are close to restarting the face-to-face visits within care homes, so that we will be communicating at all times what their responsibilities are, and that gets checked. It gets checked on their audit. Do you carry out regular fire alarm tests, evacuations? Does everybody know where the fire alarm panel is? I think, but it's funny when you have that slight lull and you're not doing that face-to-face interaction. It could have. I'm not saying it has, but have a bearing. We'll probably not know until a wee bit further down the line to see if there was a correlation between that and the increase in unwanted fire alarms.
And Alistair, do the fire service have a conversation with organisations in the homes? There could be one organisation running several homes, and having that conversation to check about their evacuation plans, and do they have books in place? Are staff trained on evacuation plans, and have they got a named person that takes responsibility?
So for every sleeping risk, every care home is subject to an annual inspection.
Right.
And within that annual inspection, it's part, as I say, it's part of our audit process. There is a section within that specifically discusses about fire evacuation and fire alarm tests. It's their responsibility as what we call duty holders to carry that out. So it's not, there's no way out of it. You need to comply with that regulation. So yes, we have that discussion. Even if it's, different companies that run a number of care homes. Yeah, we're in them all. We need to audit them all over the course of a year, of which there is in the region of about 120 classed as care homes within South Lanarkshire. It's a lot, and that's the ones we know about.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that we're really kind of have that annual visit with. Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you. That answers that question. Anyone else?
We have Councillor Carmichael, Chair.
Michael, I've just noticed it. Andy, if you want to come in.
Thanks, Chair. One area that we haven't spoken about this morning, and it's not one we would like to speak about, because I'm quite sure, like myself and all the people attending this meeting today, would condemn, Alistair, is the trend that happens in various parts of the country about attacks on your crews and verbal abuse directed at them. Is that an issue in the Hamilton area? Hopefully not. But I just would like to know if you've experienced that. Thanks.
It's not overly prevalent in Hamilton itself, but it does happen, and it has happened. Its numbers have are an awful lot lower now, Andy, than what they used to be. I think that there's more awareness now. Certainly, when you look at social media, and just kind of the media in general, they condemn it, as much as we do, which really helps. And these social media platforms now, that people are quick to jump on that. So nobody, you're kind of wide open now. So if anybody does decide, to carry out any kind of attacks on fire crews, as we would put them. You know, there's nearly always somebody out there filming it or you know, posting it up in social media, and it's just not tolerable anymore. It really isn't. Certainly, we've had a couple of instances in the Lark Hall area over the last couple of months. But as I say, in general terms, the numbers are lower, but it's nonetheless, it's just not acceptable, and it still continues to happen, but perhaps not as prevalent in Hamilton as it may be in other areas. And I suppose that sometimes that street-based thing that we were talking about earlier on will hopefully contribute to that kind of thing, and say, do you know what, we're normal people just the same as anybody else, you know, and we're trying to keep you safe, you know, so let's, you know, let's, if they put a kind of name to a face with some of that kind of stuff, it's quite good as well. But good work with the Police Scotland as well, when we discuss these kind of things at the problem solving groups and the community safety partnership hubs. They're very, you know, very supportive of that, and they're mindful of that kind of, one, fire risk, and two, the risk to us and also them. So yeah, it's still happens. It's not ideal at all, but I think we're getting better. Certainly reporting it, that's not an issue at all. And but here's hoping the public are a wee bit more kind of, or less tolerant of that kind of thing now.
Thanks very much.
Question,
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Andy. Alistair, are you in communication? I'm going from Councillor Ross's question. Are you in communication with the local groups in the areas, even if it's to give them a wee update, like community councils and community groups? I think it might be quite useful. So yeah, our community action team consists of a local area liaison officer, a kind of LELO, a deputy LELO, if you like, and three community safety advocates who work at a very localised level. And if we could use our plan, our places as an example of the level at which we can come in at, that boots on ground grassroots stuff, that we get kind of great feedback from. So our community safety advocates are embedded in some of these locality groups, and we get a great response from them. You know, and it's just about working together a bit more closely. But yes, that's an example of the level at which we are coming in at. So it's not all strategic. No, very, very, very operational. That's good. Alan, are you wanting to come in?
Aye, thanks, Mary. It's just something I picked up in my work. I work with the elderly in Bells Hill, and I was with a couple of your officers visiting one of my service users last week to do their fire check. But this elderly gentleman had a habit of losing his key, the key safety on the outside to get in, but he was losing his key from the inside through the house. And then I mentioned to one of our OTs one day, and she says, "Why don't you get a chub lock?" So I phoned up the housing department. They come out within 20 minutes. They've put a chub lock on the inside. They still have the key safe to use on the outside. And it's only a matter now of turning one way or the other to lock and unlock, which is just a simple idea, but for the person's safety, obviously. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah. Well, the thumb turn, the thumb locks, they're really good. You know, they are so much easier to use. We you know, when it comes to access and key safes and stuff like that, if we identify a vulnerable member of the community within the area that we're working in, and we feel there's like a need for us to get into that premises at any given time, we have that information as well. You know, we've got information. You know, it's obviously confidential information. If there's any additional information that we need to assist us with that individual, we get that information on our turnout slips that we get at the fire stations. So from that point of view, that's really, really beneficial to us, because it can actually limit damage as well, you know, that we're not forcing any entry into houses, or if we have an understanding of the vulnerabilities of that particular person, we can take certain action, you know, as long as we've got knowledge and understanding of that. So the information sharing, Alan, is absolutely invaluable. And having that kind of knowledge is quite good. So we might see a key safe there, think, right, okay, can they get access and egress? But you know, no, we don't know we don't know everyone that's got a thumb, but I would that's a good piece of kit. That's I like that idea of the thumb turn.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alan, for that. Anyone else?
No more hands, Chair.
No more hands. Alistair, it leaves me with nothing other than to say, please take back to the crew. Thank you for all the hard work that they are engaging in and they're doing, and we really do appreciate it. And they are, with those figures, they are keeping our neighbourhoods safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, much appreciated. Thanks again. I'll pass on my details for Councillor Craig through Elizabeth Ann. Is that okay?
Yeah,
And
that's fantastic.
we can get something
Mary.
sorted out for that area.
Mary.
Alan
Faulkner was wanting in.
Alan, are you want back in? You're muted. Alan, you're muted.
I know. I am going, Mary. Sorry about that. No, I didn't want back in. Thanks.
No, I didn't think you did. Sorry, Jim. Okay. So it leaves me nothing more to say. Thank you, Alistair, for all your hard work in the crew. I do believe you're not staying on, that you have to leave because you've got other business.
Yes, if that's okay, if everybody's okay.
That's absolutely fine, Alistair.
And again, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that's probably gone over a wee bit. But Elizabeth Ann's got my contact details. If anybody needs to talk about anything off table, more than happy to kind of pick up an email or anything like that. So thanks again, everybody. All the very best and take care of yourselves.
You too. Thank you, Alistair.
Bye-bye.
Right, the next item on the agenda is the Place Scheme grant applications, 21-22, pages 7 to 8. And I'm going to move that in block. If that's agreed, can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Mary.
Thank you. We're then on to the community grant applications, pages 9 to 12. And again, I'm going to move that in block. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Peter. Just in my closing remarks, I'm going to advise committee, you've all had emails in relation to participatory budgeting reports, which will now be featuring as a standing item following the summer recess on all area committee agendas, which will provide an update to the area committees on pre-consultations and post-consultations. And this is in line with the terms of reference to carry out a scrutiny function at a local level in relation to participatory budgeting. This is not an item for discussion, so I'm not opening this up for discussion, but it will start to be on the agenda at future agendas. And I have no other business, and I'd like to thank you for your attendance and wish you all the best for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Bye.
Bless you.